Hi, it's Anika from Living for Later. The last video I did, or I don't know when I'm gonna post this, but any case, I did a video recently on reasons why we are so stressed out. And I just want to continue on with that conversation. So today, something that I want to bring up that I think kind of connects to some of the things that we discussed previously is that oftentimes we're stressed out and we're overwhelmed because we are not operating in our purpose. We're trying to live out people's expectation of us, or we're trying to keep up with others because we're envious of them. So we're operating in a mode that we weren't created to operate in, and it leaves us extremely overwhelmed and stressed. There's nothing like operating out of your, or I shouldn't say there's nothing, but operating outside of your purpose is absolutely stressful, right? So you need to pause and ask the Lord, what is my purpose? What is it that you're calling me to, and not necessarily what everyone has told me or what everyone is expecting of me, but what are you saying to me? You need to have clarity on that if you feel like you fall into this category. And the other part of just even trying to keep up with others is sometimes we're overwhelmed and we're stressed because in the process of trying to keep up with other people, we create debt because, stuff helps to complete the look, and we don't have the money to complete the look, and we go into debt. So then we have to find ourselves working harder to pay off that debt. Whereas if we were just content in being who God has called us to be, a lot of the stress would be absolutely eliminated. As the scripture says that the blessings of the Lord, it makes rich and it adds no sorrow with it. So, and I've did a video before where I know we've gotten ourselves into debt because we felt like we had to complete a certain room to have a certain look, and we had to really pay for that debt, and it was stressful during that season, but thank God that's done with. So keep that in mind. The next thing that I think, and I'm looking down at my notes here, is that we can be in toxic relationships, right? We could be pursuing the Lord, but we have people in our lives that are just absolutely weighing us down. Toxic people drain you, and it's absolutely stressful, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in the position of trying to be people's saviors, right? Or, oh, if I just remain in this friendship with them, perhaps I could lead them to the Lord. But if you've been in that friendship for 10 years and the Lord is telling you, listen, ain't no fruit coming from this, and they're just draining you, perhaps it's time to cut that off. Now, I'm not saying that, the Lord can't use you to minister to the unsaved, because that's the point, right? That's part of the point of our existence. But there's certain people in our lives where they've just made up their mind that they're not going to change, and all they do is absolutely drain you. So if you're in relationships like that, that can prove to be stressful. So you need to pray and ask the Lord to give you the courage to cut it off. And more than likely, you already know what the Lord is saying in terms of cutting it off. You just have to, again, move in courage and do that. And then another form of a toxic relationship could be those that really don't mean you any good. And they belittle you. They speak down at you. They laugh at, what you feel like the Lord has put on your heart in terms of what you're to pursue. And they're no source of encouragement whatsoever. That can be extremely stressful because you're going back and forth of trying to appease them and trying to, go with what the Lord is telling you to do. You don't need people in your life that's going to discourage you from running towards the calling of God on your life. So if this is the case for you, again, you need to cut it off. The other thing that I believe can prove to be, a stress factor is disobedience, right? And this seems to just like last year, 2016, that was the theme for me, right? I did my It Pays to Obey series, and it's come up in many other of my videos. But disobedience, boy, when you're outside of the will of God, that will just put a stress on you like nobody's business, right? Ask Jonah. I could only imagine you talking about being inside the belly of a fish. Yeah, that can prove to be just a little bit stressful, right? So when you're running away from what God has called you to do, that puts on unnecessary stress on you. So surrender and say yes to the Lord. And sometimes it's not just, okay, I'm not saved. Sometimes you could be saved and still walking in disobedience in certain areas, right? So you need to say yes to what the Lord is saying to you, and move forward and unload the stress that comes with disobedience. The next thing and the final thing that I want to share is not spending enough time with God. And this is the biggest point of them all. There's so many factors that come at us throughout the day, and we need to be built up before we go out, and we need to decompress when we come in, right? So if you're not spending time with the Lord, of course you're going to be stressed, because everything that comes your way, you're going to see them from a carnal perspective, and it's going to weigh on you. Whereas when you spend time with the Lord, that's your time to be refreshed and to gain the proper perspective, so things don't weigh on you as much as they would if you hadn't spent that time with the Lord. So if you don't have a scheduled time with the Lord, I know some people just kind of like, easy going with it, and oh, I'll do it whenever I feel like it. But if you know that you're struggling with spending time with the Lord, be deliberate about penciling it in. I've said this before, putting, an alarm on your phone, something. You need to put something in place if you know that it's not just a natural habit for you. If it's not a habit at this point, put something in so that you are spending time in His presence to be refreshed and to decompress from all the stress factors that come your way. So leave me a comment below to let me know, what you feel are perhaps some of the things that prove to be stressful for you that sometimes your own doing. All right. I'm going to stop there. You be blessed.